All right, 6 o'clock, we'll convene the meeting. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone. We will start as usual by reviewing and signing the payroll and accounts payable. For the period ending 2/8/2025, we had payroll in the amount of $36,476.11, and we had accounts payable in the amount of $82,591.87. We had no payments to Swayze, the co-op, or New Hampshire Retirement in this pay period. Or not. Thank you. All right. Next, I will take a motion to review and approve the consent agenda.
Moved. Second.
Any questions or comments on that agenda? Has everyone taken a look at it? So included in that consent agenda are public minutes from 2/4, non-public minutes from 2/4, which are sealed, building permits, and the rec manifest. If there's no other comments or corrections, I will take a vote on the motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Aye.
A motion or?
Sorry.
Motion.
A vote.
Yep, that's why I paused.
Goes to you. Next, we'll open public comment at 6:03. As always, please come up to the table and turn the microphone on so you see a red light, and please state your name and street. Anyone interested in making public comment tonight? Seeing none, I will close public comment at 6:03. We'll move on to our discussion action items, and our first is the public hearing for Jack Garber for ZBA. Jack, if you want to come up to the table, just make sure that the microphone is on so we can hear you. Good, okay.
Hello, thank you.
So to update the public on, for people that weren't here over the past couple of weeks, this board, I think 2 meetings ago or 3, I forget how many meetings, couple of meetings ago, made a vote to remove Mr. Garber from ZBA after a couple of events that had happened here in the town office building. And we notified Mr. Garber that there was going to be a public hearing. The notice was not very long. It was only 3 or 4 days because we wanted to take action before the next ZBA meeting. Mr. Garber did request to have an opportunity to come back due to that short notice, which I thought was quite reasonable. So offered for him to come back and speak to us in a public forum. And so we have officially removed Mr. Garber, but my understanding is you'd like to be potentially reconsidered for reinstatement to that committee. And so it's really up to you how much you would like to say. When we removed you, we did not talk about specifics. We basically just said that there had been an incident at a ZBA meeting and then another incident in the land use office that we felt as a board demonstrated unprofessional and adversarial conduct. And we felt that that was reason under RSA 673-13 to remove you from office for malfeasance of duty. And so I will leave it there and turn it over to you.
Thank you. And my statement will not be a he said, she said discussion of what transpired or what did not transpire and who said what and what I said. But my statement is that I apologize to the select board, and I apologize to the individuals who were involved in the temperament that I demonstrated, which was out of character at the time. And I enjoy my position on the ZBA. I believe that I'm effective in that position. And I love the town of Brentwood, where I reside. and my interests are to remain on the board. I can say that what occurred then will never occur again. It is totally out of character for me to have blown my stack that way, so to speak, and I apologize to the individuals who were involved, and I have already apologized to them personally in the past, before coming here today.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Garber or comments? Paul?
I have a question. We haven't met before, but at least I was told that what happened caused there to be a lack of quorum because of you abandoning the position at that particular time. So that event in and of itself gives me cause for concern, because it sounded to me as though you left the board in a situation where they were unable to function, and that's what we're trying to do here on all these boards is function. So
I'll reply to that
Okay.
because it is a factual matter. That's not the case.
okay,
Me picking up and leaving would have been the same as abstaining from voting. There was a continued quorum, and there was a vote on the matter before it. After I left, but what I did by walking out, it was tantamount to abstaining to vote on that particular matter.
okay. So you're saying that did not result in a lack of a quorum, because at least that's how I understood the situation.
No, it did not. There was no lack of quorum after I left. The meeting continued. In fact, the minutes would bear that out from the ZB on that night.
That was my understanding too, Paul, that there were some comments about there being a lack of quorum, but that was not actually the case. There was still a quorum afterwards.
Yeah.
So I guess my question on that note was your intention to cause a lack of a quorum when you left?
No, I knew that there was enough people sitting there.
So if that's the case, then why, when you left, did you say, if I leave, you won't have a quorum and you can't have this meeting?
No, because of a phone call that we had received earlier in the afternoon that our presence was necessary to maintain a quorum, and my wife and I both on the ZBA, and we both appeared, so it would not have
No,
caused a problem.
I know, I understand that the result was that it wasn't going to cause a problem.
Yeah.
I'm more speaking to your words when you left, which were, if I go, you won't have a quorum.
Yeah, that was not what I was referring to. Not for me just leaving. Somebody else would have to walk out at the same time.
So when you said that, what did you mean?
Just that I was leaving the meeting because it was. Look, my intent is to ensure that the will of the community is upheld, and that means that if there is a zoning ordinance that is about to be changed or altered as a result of an action by the ZBA, which could mean prejudice in the future to other applicants and also to the townspeople, then I'm going to once again abstain. I think it was a better move would have been to ask for a recess and or continue the matter for another date so I could have spoken to other board members. But I could not have broken the quorum all by myself.
I understand that. That's not what I'm asking about. I recognize that you understand now that you couldn't have done that, but at the time, your stated intent, your words that you said were, I'm leaving, now you don't have a quorum.
Yeah, I could not do that on my own. I knew that I could not do that on my own
And
at that
why
time.
did you say that?
As I said, if anybody else would follow me out, then there wouldn't have been a quorum, and no one followed me out.
So, if I could,
Sure.
Yeah. So why did you leave? I mean, I'm thinking, you know, in a professional setting, if I left the courtroom,
And-
the judge would probably sanction me or hold me in contempt, or you know, I might
Yeah.
be suspended
It-
for some
It was,
period.
it was not a good move, as I said. It was a much better move. I should have just either abstained or voted against the resolution. If you know, if you want to, I'm trying to avoid going into the facts that led up
Sure.
to that as much as I possibly can, because I don't think it's going to be a positive situation for me to discuss the steps that went up.
You were
up.
upset. Is that fair to say? You were angry with the situation?
Yes, that's absolutely correct, yes. There was,
But
there,
you
I
understand.
was taken by surprise. I was taken by surprise because, and I understand I'm the first person who has ever done this. About a week before that meeting, I came to make inquiries about certain things that I was concerned was going to happen in that meeting. And I was told that it was not going to happen. And the first thing that occurred is this document came on the table that took me totally by surprise.
But Jack, if I could call you Jack.
You may.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you could just imagine if every time I was angry, either in the courtroom or at a hearing here in town or on the select board, and I left, or other people left, because probably other people may be even more angry than me, we'd never be able to do business.
Absolutely, and totally relate as a former lawyer myself. And so I agree with exactly what you're saying, and it was a bad move to do that.
Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. Garber has come up here, he's apologized, he's been grilled after he's apologized. I think the point has been made. Mr. Garber, I want to acknowledge that it takes, courage to come up, admit someone's faults in public, in a public setting like this, take a grilling like this, and I think that speaks to the character that you have and aspire to. So, thank you for taking those steps.
Thank you.
In
No,
spite of this.
I deeply apologize. It was totally out of character for me to do that, and I recognize the court settings. I've been frustrated in court in the past, and while I've never done that there, I should not have done it here either. I should have taken other steps, asked for a recess, and or asked that the matter be put over for another date for us to discuss what would have been a situation. Because, as you know, being in court, sometimes you do get surprised by what a witness says or a document that's produced.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by a document that got produced.
And I appreciate it, and I echo John Morgan's comments. But part of what I do is to cross-examine a little bit, because I want to see how
Getting cross-examined.
you would react, and how you have reacted is admirable.
Totally
So
wrong.
I think we've heard Mr. Garber out. I think we've heard from the board. We have officially removed Mr. Garber, so in order to reinstate him, we would need a motion to do so on this board. I need to know how this board, if anyone is inclined to make a change or to stand by our prior decision.
I stand by my decision.
I'd be comfortable having him go back on the board. I mean, it's not an easy thing to get up and do what he just did, and I think that speaks highly of someone. But that's where I'm at.
Okay, so are you making a motion to reinstate?
I'm not sure I'll get a second, but I'll make a motion. Sure.
Is there a second for reinstatement?
Yeah, I would second. And
Thank you.
again, I feel like we're all deserving of second chances, and I take your words to heart that it won't ever happen again.
It won't. Thank you very much.
So we can discuss now?
Yep, this motion is.
So this was the third time he's done. He's behaved in way that I think does not represent the town well. 3 separate instances. The instance that he's talking about is the second of 3. And I guess for me, that's already enough chances. Like, we didn't go to dismiss him right after this happened because
No,
it
we
was
did after
okay
there was a
giving him a
second event
chance.
that occurred in the land use office.
Yep.
Correct.
So in my mind, he's already had his second chance. So I am not inclined to reinstate him.
Okay. Andy, any comments you want to make?
I would say that we don't reinstate him, but allow him to reapply for the position when we open it.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second on the table for reinstatement. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And I'm a nay. So that will not pass. And we certainly, I think there's nothing, to Andy's point, there's nothing stopping you from reapplying in the future, and we can discuss that. And once again, I want to echo my fellow board members for really thanking you for coming and saying your piece. And I appreciate your apology, and it's accepted.
Thank you.
All right, next on our action items is Avatar contract. So over the past several years, we've talked at this board about the importance of updating some of our town software, which we lovingly refer to as the Oregon Trail software that works on DOS, and you have to push F9 and F6 to do things. And so we are very much in favor of doing that. And it is a long process, which I think Andrea's maybe going to speak to a little bit about how we do the conversion of the multiple different parts. But the first part that we could do totally separate from our accounting side of things is the town clerk. So Daphne's town clerk duties that relate to like motor vehicle, dog licenses, all that sort of standard clerk stuff that kind of lives separately from the rest of our accounting could be done first. And Daphne would very much like to do that before we convert the rest. The assessing and building permits would be a later conversion that will likely line up with the reval that we do later this year. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrea to present to us the various contracts that Avatar has sent over that relate to the town clerk module only.
Yep, she has 3 contracts here. One is the software, purchase and installation. This is the big one. This is $14,900 plus the boat module, which is $500, so it's $15,400 for that one. And then there is the website deployment and hosting agreement, which is the kiosk. This is like for price estimates, stuff like that.
That allows
As
the
it is-
public to
to go in,
interface.
Yep. And that is $1,500. That's a one-time setup fee. And then there's the invoice cloud online presentment and payment integration. This is online transactions, so this is your renewals and stuff, and that's also $1,500. So
And are those, the two 1,500s are one and done costs?
yeah, well, there is it's a monthly charge, so it's $100 per month.
100 month for both of those?
This one, for this one. This one is. This one looks like annual. This is the annual support is 15.
Okay, so
Little
that,
over 100
which
a
one's
month.
that one? So
This
the,
one is
the
the
website
price
one is
estimation.
1,500 a year.
Yep.
The other, the invoice cloud
cloud
is
online.
1,500 and then 100 a month.
Per month, yep.
And the other one is a 15,400 one-time.
It's the
Fee?
one-time setup, and then there is, yeah, and that's it.
One-time setup. That's basically to purchase the software. Okay. We have a capital reserve fund for software that I don't have right in front of me, but I can pull it up. I think it's got $120,000 in it.
Mhm.
Does that sound right, Andrea?
Yeah.
And so that was always the,
We're gonna pay for
the
this.
intention for where this would come out of. Does the board have questions, thoughts, or concerns either about the timing of moving forward or the contracts?
And I'm assuming that if we pay this, we're still gonna have enough to update the rest of the things.
Separately,
Yeah.
yes.
What,
we just briefly review what other software we would need to use that capital reserve account?
Yes, so let me just pull it up because I have it right here. $120,716 as of close of December 31st. So currently, to my understanding, I'm not a software expert, there's no exact software that does every single thing we have to do in town. So like what Candia did recently, maybe you can talk us through that, did Avatar for clerk, tax collector, and building permits. And then the tax collector and the building permits interface with assessing. So we would basically, the Patriot system that we use now for all of our assessing would go all the way over to a new system. And that's the reason why you should do it during a reval, because you're already going into every single property to update it. So you transfer it over at the same time. So that would all be through Avatar. But what Avatar doesn't do is like accounts payable, AP, HR, that whole financial side of the business. And that is what most towns are moving to MTS, which is the homegrown like New Hampshire program through the MRI company. And that conversion would happen probably after the Avatar conversion. Am I saying that right? I let you speak to your experience.
MTS could pretty much happen as long as they're available to do it. I'm meeting with them tomorrow, so.
What's the rough cost of the transition to MTS?
To MTS, I don't know MTS, but I can tell you for Avatar, that conversion is roughly, I was looking at the numbers yesterday, between 55 and 60,000.
Okay, that makes
sense.
Assessing, building, tax collector, clerk.
And then
Do you know rough? Because did Candia was like in the process of moving to MTS when you?
We were accounts payable.
Yep.
Before it took us 2 years to get the payroll. So we just switched over.
Do you remember how much the cost?
I can get that cost. I can ask, his name is Christian, so.
So we have 120, 15 plus 60, that's 75, right? And that's kind of, and then there's, I guess my major question is like, are there other,
Additional costs?
not even associated with those two, but more, is there a third or a fourth piece of software that we need to worry about? Or can we just go back to building that up for the next
So,
transition?
I think if it's Avatar and MTS, that covers all of our assessing work, our AP payroll, benefits management, all of that, building permits, and then all of Daphne's.
So we'll have 40, 45 left after the full transition, and then we can let that kind of build back up to the point.
We may have to build it back up once we see what the price tag is for MTS. Like, I'm not really sure.
I don't think it's not quite 15,000. I'd say it's about maybe 10.
For MTS?
MTS, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, so we should have,
Fairly inexpensive.
So we should be okay.
we should have plenty
I
then.
think.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And-
Did I mishear? I thought I heard 50. Or were you saying?
So
15?
all of Avatar is between 55 and 60.
All the modules.
All
We're
the
just doing
modules
one
for Avatar.
module
It's
right now.
roughly that much.
50.
When I
That
looked
would
at it
be
yesterday.
another,
55 to 60.
Okay.
It's like 50.
so you would do that in stages over like.
Yeah,
years?
so the next that we'll be looking at is the assessing, because we really have to start getting rolling on the reval. So it's important that we get that going.
Do you want to give a brief update? Because you and I have talked about this off behind the scenes about kind of how we anticipate that working with the reval with KRT.
Yeah, KRT they're gonna resubmit a contract, and it will have the conversion on there with Avatar. So it is an additional cost, but it was only like 10,000-ish more, so.
Could we use money from that capital reserve because that is part of the conversion?
Potentially. We'd have to,
Oh, I see.
we'd have to look at the
Yeah.
wording.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
we'd have to look at the
because if it
wording.
is part of the conversion as opposed to just the revaluation. then
Yeah.
we might
Yep.
be able to.
Yeah, so when this board was in the process of going out to KRT, I think what we didn't necessarily understand is that during the reval is actually the optimal, perfect time to do a software upgrade. It actually seems sort of weird, like why would you do two big things at the same time? But apparently that's the gold standard of when you do it. And so KRT was willing to work with us, and Jim Michaud is willing to work with us, although there is there's sort of a busy work step that of uploading the sketches for all the houses
Yeah.
that is going to be a bit clunky in the conversion. And so there's potentially opportunity that we may have to have somebody else help us, or a contractor or some volunteers or somebody help us with that step, because under our standard yearly contract with Jim, he may not be able to do that extra section. So that's something we'll have to figure out with KRT and Avatar and Andrea, how we're going to do that one step. So the ask in front of us tonight is to approve the 18,400 total to move forward with allowing us to purchase and contract with Avatar, and then have them start the process with Daphne of converting her side of the software. And she's not here tonight, I don't think. I don't know if she's still here. She's
down
pretty
there.
vocal about how badly she would like to do this. I think we all know like how she feels about it. She's not been shy about telling us how much she wants to switch to the software. And I did sit in on a couple of Zooms with Avatar, and it does not look like the Oregon Trail. It actually looks sort of like current, and there's like little buttons that you click, and like there's color photos of the house. You could just click
Very
things.
user-friendly.
You don't have to hit F6 for anything, or F9 or escape. It's really quite amazing. So I think, and she's thrilled, and also feels that it is going to really help with a few real bottleneck things that they get stuck in, especially with tax collecting. When we move to that, she's very excited about some very labor-intensive processes that are hopefully going to get a lot better for her office as we move to this software. So she's a fan.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? And I don't know, is it have
Does have a
signature?
signature,
Could
yeah.
we elect you to be a signature, or does it
can.
specify that it
No,
has
you
to
can
be?
do that. I've done it.
Yep.
before, So,
Would you amend your
That's
motion
fine.
to allow Andrea to be the signer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion, I think we had a second as well.
I second. it.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we will have that out of the capital reserve fund that is called Municipal Operations Software. Perfect. Next on here, we have a front-end loader update. Wayne did give an update last night at BudCom hearing that feels he has exhausted every potential option to fix the old front-end loader. And so, Wayne, do you want to come up for a minute? And so as things stand right now, we have a warrant on the warrant that was for a purchase of up to, and we just picked the up to number to cover all the potential quotes that we had in front of us. That warrant could be amended if we make a decision by town meeting exactly which machine we want to buy. The reason we picked the 190 is it was inclusive of all of the quotes that we had. And so at this point, Wayne, I think what we're interested in is your advice or your feeling about if we are bringing this warrant to the public. Is there a particular machine that you would like the board to consider? It looks like we have another potential quote in front of us tonight as well from Mr. Michaud. And how would you like to see this move forward now?
Well, this one here from Frank Hartman, he came over the shed last week, well, I think Wednesday or Thursday. Come in, he had pictures of this machine, and he has it right here in Brentwood at his house. And he told us all about it. He told us all about it, and everything on here, everything he's got on this paper here is basically what he had told us. What Mr. Michaud met him, I guess, today or sometime, and he told him about the machine, so he came down and to tell me about it. So we called up Frank to go over and look at it tonight, and he hasn't had it running for a while, so he went out to start it, and the batteries were low, so we couldn't get it started. But he is starting it up for us to go over and give it a run around to try it out. Said we could come over there and try it out if we're interested in it. This is the price. He gave the price here to Mr. Michaud when he did, so they wrote it up, and brought it over. We like to go over there and run it. I know Micah has driven these Komatsu. Yeah, they've driven these Komatsus, and I think Jeff has too. So to have them guys get in it, I haven't. I've only driven John Deere since I was a kid. So I'm willing to go over and just to try it out. I mean, the price looks pretty good here, and we'll go over and try it out, and then compare.
Because in total, we
Now,
had,
is this gonna go into town meeting on a warrant?
it already is,
So it's
yeah.
gonna, okay,
I
but that's
think-
okay. I got some other information tonight too, is if we can wait for 2 months, about 2 months, all the tractor places that sells these different loaders, they lease them. They lease them for the winter, and they'll be bringing them in. And there may be some deals out there for, to buy them, because they usually want to unload them as they come in. So, but it's gonna take about 2 months for that to happen. But if we're gonna wait, if you can get us somewhere a price and put in for a price for a warrant article, then we can still look around too, to see what the best deal
Okay.
is. You guys wanna do that?
And I think current quotes we have, so this is a quote for a used 2016. We have a quote from John Deere for a used, like 2023 or 4.
Yeah,
How old was
and
that?
I wanted to ask you on that John Deere, the one that has the 271 hours on it,
Yep.
is that John Deere, is that got a warranty with it? Did it say on that paper? I didn't,
Yeah, it's in the office.
it is, I was just, I'll check tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll check, and, because I thought of it tonight on my way down, and
Yeah.
if it had a warranty, even though it's got the hours, if we have a warranty.
Right,
on.
because that was a
so-
used machine, but much newer.
Yeah.
Because this one's already, what,
Yeah.
8 years old,
But-
9 years old?
Yep.
Okay.
But we'll go down and check this one out
Okay.
and, see if it's.
So I think what the board probably is looking for from you is town meeting is like a month from today approximately. So if you get to the point where of all the quotes that you have in front of you, you have one that you definitely feel is the right choice.
We'll
I
have that
think-
by the town
I think
meeting.
if you bring that to us and we're in agreement, that would allow us to amend the
Amend.
warrant real time down to the actual
Down
dollar
to
value.
the cost, okay.
If
That's
you
fine.
end up deciding that you prefer to wait, then we have to decide what number we want to leave that warrant at if the public is willing
Public,
to fund that. And then we would just wait and try to purchase one later in the summer. So it's just, there's just like a few moving parts here.
Okay,
Is-
so now if we see if we go check this one out and we decided this is running good enough and want to have, and we come in sooner.
Sure.
Is,
If you really decide
Did-
this is the right one,
Yep.
bring that information
that
back
in
to the
vid-
board
for
with
you.
the pros and cons.
Okay.
The board will vote, and we can then make a motion to amend that warrant down to this
Okay.
number. We just picked that high number just as a
Yep.
holding place, knowing that there was going to be moving parts between now and town meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Any board members have any different feelings about that? Okay. Okay, so let us know when you,
We'll let you
when
know.
you decide if there's one of these that you definitely feel like is in the best interest for the town.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you to Jim for helping in this process. All
The other
right,
Jim.
Jim.
Many
Michaud.
gyms.
There's a lot of Jims.
Well, we have 2 Jim Michauds.
Yes, the one who's in the room, the one who's present, correct. I did think they were the same Jim you showed for a while. I was like, that's really weird that he does like assessing and he owns like the bus and truck place. Weird. Yeah, different person. Next, we have a cemetery notice of intent. If folks remember going back several years now, a couple years, where there was an accidental disinterment of some human remains in Brentwood, and Joyce Keegle had updated this board a few times about that process and what an interesting process it ended up being for our cemetery folks, and really sort of an interesting event in New Hampshire that got some press and attention. And so that process is now wrapping up. And there is an RSA mandated process that needs to happen for that cemetery, which has been, those remains have been reinterred at that location. And there is a process that we have to go through to basically declare that an abandoned cemetery. And so the Cemetery Board of Trustees asked the Select Board to read into the minutes tonight the public notice. The original notice of intent was posted at the town hall and was published in the December issue of the Brentwood newsletter. So it has been more than 60 days, which is the requirement for the RSA. This timeline is to let any potential folks who feel like they might be family members of the decedents to come forward and speak out before this is declared an abandoned cemetery. Am I saying that right? Yes, okay. So the public notice reads as follows. The Town of Brentwood, New Hampshire Cemetery Trustees have identified a cemetery that is not yet owned by the Town of Brentwood and under RSA 289-19 through 21 are looking to have it declared neglected/abandoned. The trustees are looking to have the following cemetery/burial ground declared neglected/abandoned. The Brentwood Poor Farm Cemetery, seeking direct descendants of possible Brentwood Poor Farm residents circa 1841 to 1868, located at GPS coordinate 430037 north, 71 degrees 0118.0 west in Brentwood, New Hampshire, tax map lot number 206.090.001. If you are a direct descendant of any Brentwood Poor Farm residents, we ask that you get in touch with the board, with the Town of Brentwood Select Board at 603-642-6400, extension 12, as soon as possible to discuss this matter. So that would suffice for the public notice being read out in public. Jim, is there an additional step that you need from us tonight?
No.
No. Yeah, that's fine.
We're supposed to have the actual public hearing Thursday night at our meeting.
Right.
Because of the snow, we're next Thursday.
Okay. So there will be a published cemetery trustee meeting.
Yeah, the agenda's already up there saying
Yep.
it's next Thursday. That will be the official public hearing.
Yep.
And again, as we know, we don't very much anybody, and I'm sure you haven't got any calls.
We have not. No.
Because no one knows who is actually buried there.
Right.
The research that is currently not
Right.
So we really doubt anyone forward.
Right.
But once we finish this process, I will come back to you because it would then require us as a town, we will have to vote.
Right.
And then we will have to work together. And Joyce and myself, I'm not sure that experience doing this, like who do we know? How do we
Sure.
at the same time?
Okay.
I'm sure on the GIS it's going to have to show that it's a cemetery in the town of Brentwood.
Yep.
So we'll just figure that out together.
Okay.
Next step would be
Perfect. Okay. So any interested parties or people who feel they may be related to these decedents, please contact us or the cemetery folks. Thank you. Next is a discussion about the ZBA in general. So we had closed our ZBA issue earlier in the meeting. The ZBA has been a board in town that has been difficult to fill and get a active quorum on over the years. And then we've had some people move away, retire, et cetera. And so what we did, as this board remembers, for all other committees is we tried to streamline the process of getting them all to have the application period in the summer and to do all reappointments every summer. The ZBA is a little bit different in that even after we did that process, we had open, unfilled positions. So I just wanted to ask this board, is this board in favor of leaving the ZBA open on just a rolling basis, which I think is kind of unofficially what has happened? Or would we like to periodically republish for ZBA? One of the reasons this comes up partly is because of Mr. Garber coming off, but the other is that we do have a town member who has applied. And so I just wanted to check with the board, given that we do have an application in front of us, do we want to officially reopen, repost as we have done in the past, where we give like a, I forget how many days, 60-day notice or something? I'm just kind of checking with the board. Do we want to just evaluate applications on a rolling basis as they come in, or do we want to sort of reestablish the official process with website notification and deadlines and things like that?
Can you remind me of the status? How many, how many people are on now and how many people are supposed to be?
Believe there's 4
I don't remember.
currently.
5 on?
5?
There are 5 spots. There are 4 bodies.
Oh,
There's 4 bodies, 5 spots. I think we maybe did, but just didn't have sufficient number of applicants to even entertain an alternate up to this point. Yep. Sure. Yep.
so it's 4,
So it's a 5-member board,
yeah,
and we currently have 4, correct? Okay.
4th.
Yep.
So I think anytime we have open positions on the board, we should actively accept applications and then still have the term expire in the summer
To line them up.
to line them up. But, I mean, it's,
And I don't recall off the top of my head what the term of ZBA
I think it's
was. 3? Was it 3 years? 3 years?
and they're staggered, so they're not all the same.
Yep.
but with the open position, we should post it with a 1 month, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but if, in the future, if there's anytime there's an open position, we should post it. And then, but if it doesn't get filled, accept
Ongoing.
ongoing
Okay.
applications.
So given that this is technically a new opening, we'll follow our standard process with the website notification, a deadline for applications. We'll let the current applicant know that that process is happening, and then we'll take it from there.
But I would also post for
Alternates.
2 or 3 alternates.
Sure. We can look up by statute.
I remember when I sat on the board, there was, I think, 3 alternates.
3? Okay, so we can check into how many alternates we can advertise for. Great, thank you. So anybody listening who's interested in getting involved with the ZBA, please let us know. And next on our discussion action items, we have building inspector, and I'll turn that over to Andrea. We have hired a replacement for Kip.
Yes, I had 2 applicants. We picked, his name is Bob Donovan. He has municipal experience. He's been a building inspector in 2 towns. And
Which
he'll
2
be
towns?
starting on the 24th. What's that?
Which 2 towns?
Candia and Newton.
Oh, is this, we discussed him
Yeah.
earlier.
Yep.
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 And his
The
start date,
Is the
21st?
24th.
The 24th?
Yep.
And is
He'll be
Kip
back.
back in
Yep.
town now, or will be?
Yep.
Okay. And we anticipate them overlapping briefly, or does?
Briefly,
okay.
maybe a week.
Okay. So starting 4/24, so essentially 2 weeks from yesterday. All right, so we'll be happy to welcome him. Kip, I think, will probably just kind of let us know when he's ready to close out with us. He's been very generous. I think anybody who knows Kip knows how hard he works for the town, and that he sort of tried to retire on January 1st, but he did. He's so nice to us that he didn't. And he's been willing to kind of help us and float a little bit until we get somebody to replace him. So we're very thankful for him. And anything else that you wanted to say about that? Okay. All right. We had discussed last week about reviewing comp time. Andrea and I discussed that and elected to bump that because we wanted to discuss multiple issues, including the sick bank and sick time.
I just saw that, yeah,
Yes.
apparently we have,
So there's a few things we thought lumping those all together would make sense, so we're gonna push that off just a little bit, but I think all agree that we need to get some clarity and maybe clean up the language in the handbook about some of those things. So just know that that has not been forgotten. And I will now move to regular business, and we'll start with Andrea. Is there anything that you had for us for regular business?
I do not have anything.
Nothing, okay. We'll move on to Andy for board business or committee updates.
I have nothing.
Okay,
Nothing here.
Paul?
Yeah, for regular business, I know there was a 8,000 plus amount difference between the fuller
Yes.
bond than what we contributed. and
Yes.
I think it would be helpful if we had Ambrose to give us maybe a rundown on where we stand with the debt financing and the bonds, because I know there was some discussion last night about that. I think, I don't know for sure, but I think, and if we get Ambrose in, he'll be able to tell us that there may be some of the conservation bonds from older time that are maturing, so that will go away and reduce some of the debt, but I'd like some confirmation of that. And then we ought to figure out what to do with that 8,000 plus, differential, because right now it's in the general fund. We
Yeah.
could leave it in the general fund, or we could return it to the bond bank,
Yep.
or I don't know if we should ultimately leave it in the general fund. If we're not gonna return it to the bond bank to pay down the principal, it probably ought to go to the conservation fund, it would seem to me, but
Okay.
probably the former, going back to the bond.
Well,
general fund
presumably we're
assets.
paying interest on that money, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So am I hearing you say two different things? One, you'd like an overall bond status update from Ambrose?
Yeah.
And two, we need to figure out what to do with that $8,000. Okay.
8 and change, I don't know
Yep.
the number off the top of my head.
Is there a reason, maybe I'm being overly simplistic, not being a finance person, is there a reason why it wouldn't make sense just to return it? Because we don't need it and therefore we don't need to pay interest on that money?
Depends on the terms of the bond.
Yes.
Gotcha.
As a
Yeah.
prepayment.
Okay, gotcha.
I think, well, Ambrose already did, I asked him about that, and he had said that he checked into it and it could be advance paid like that.
Okay. Okay, so
So
we will have him clarify what our options are and then the board will take action.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you had?
Just conservation tomorrow.
And I believe conservation's still working kind of in non-public about another piece of property?
Yeah.
Okay. Letty?
The planning board meeting from last week was canceled. So, I sent everyone the draft of the town report in your emails. The hope is that we're gonna get it to the printer the next day or two. Our intention this year is to have it online so that people can access the information before the
That's a good
books
idea.
come, because the books typically don't come until right before school meeting. I think that's it.
I don't have any major updates. We had the budget hearing last night, and there was a pretty vocal crowd there expressing some of their concerns about the taxes going up in Brentwood. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone on this board. We do understand that. There was a lot of discussion about that. The BudCom did meet as usual before and after that hearing. We did have a discussion with Joe Bird briefly after the hearing and ended up deciding not to make any modifications to what we are bringing forward to town meeting. And so the warrant, as we have previously approved it, still stands after the budget hearing. And the next step will be the school warrant was signed by both the school and the BudCom. So the next step is we are finalizing our warrant with DRA. Once we get that finalized, BudCom will sign that warrant, and then all of those warrants have to be publicly posted by the deadline, which I believe is the 24th. So we are in the process of getting that completed to meet our RSA statutory requirements. And for anyone that might have been a little bit confused, there was a rescheduling of the school business, I think they call it the business meeting at the school. It at one point was going to be on Wednesday, March 5th, but is currently on Monday, March 3rd. So the school
the-
district meeting,
Like the town meeting, but for school.
correct, yeah. So where they vote on they have, I think, 3 warrants? I think they have 3 articles on their warrant. They will be presenting their warrant and having voting and deliberation on Monday, March 3rd at 6 p.m. at Swayze. So anyone who's interested in going to that. And then I think everybody knows that we have the election on the 11th and then town meeting on the 15th. So those are the big dates to put in your calendar. I think that was all that I had for updates. I did want to request to go into non-public for hiring. Did anyone else have any other board business before we discuss going into non-public? Are there any other non-public topics? Does anyone have any legal updates or any other topics?
Nope.
Nope. So I'll take a motion to go into non-public for hiring.
Moved.
And
Second.
roll call vote. Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we'll go into non-public at 6:51. Thank you to the public for attending and have a nice evening.